Welcome to the Tansson Talks show. I'm Brandon, the host of the show, and I always love doing this. Heading into the 116th episode, I'm very excited to welcome my guest here today, Joshua Gearhart. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on here, and I'm really excited to share some really great stories.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. I'm looking forward to the stories. I know we shared a little bit offline, but I'm excited to dive into the episode.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really great episode. We got to talk a little bit beforehand, great conversations, but it's, again, a pleasure to be on here. So thanks for having me.
Of course. And I did want to ask, how are you doing today?
Great. And I'm really, really excited to be on here talking about, where PRSA is taking me after college. And you know what? Every student has that kind of moment where, they put the grad cap on, they walk down the stage and you're like, what now? So we'll dive more into that. But I think there's always, if there's a will, there's a way. And I think we'll try to talk about that. And hopefully we can share some helpful tips for those out there going through that moment. Because it's coming around the corner. It's happening in May. So for all of you graduating in May, this is for you.
Absolutely. And I know we're recording a little bit in advance, but I think this advice will be so helpful. And I want to allow for you to go ahead and introduce yourself first before we go ahead and get started with the episode.
Yeah. So as you said, my name is Joshua Gearhart. I am a Millersville alumni now, which to me still seems crazy. I graduated in December, about a year early. I did my degree in about 3.5 years. And I got a degree major in communications with a concentration in public relations. And then I minored in media arts production. So at Millersville, that kind of encompasses a whole bunch of media production. So that's like broadcasting, radio, television, news, you name it, anything behind a camera or a mic, it's in that minor. So then after college, I was actually able to get a job really, really soon. I graduated, like I said, and then I think it was like right after I got back from a ski trip from Vermont, I started that same day. So we came back and I currently work as a communications coordinator at Select Medical, which to me has been like a dream come true so far. When I was a younger kid, I was actually a miracle child from Children's Miracle Network. I had a very rare life-threatening condition. And as a result, I had a very, very low chance of survival. So ever since then, healthcare and in that industry has always been on my mind from a young age. So coming into college, I either knew it was either going to be sports communications, sports broadcasting, or, that healthcare route. So, and for me, it ended up being the healthcare route, and it's been really, really amazing. So I've been in a really great position, and I'm very lucky to be on this show today talking about it.
Well, I'm so, as I said, honored to have you on the show, and thank you, first of all, for even sharing, like I said, your story, your background, and I'm glad that you are able to to be here today, all things considered.
Yeah, it's a miracle, and I think that's one of the things I want to tell everybody. Every day is a blessing, right? Every day is a blessing. Like, you don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. So, and I think that's kind of always how I live my life, right? Whether it's being the best, whether it becomes training on the ice for me because I was an ice hockey player growing up, or just being the best in the classroom, or now being the best in my career. You always got to try and always do 110% at everything you do. And I think that kind of goes back to battling through adversity. Like throughout my entire career, it's never been easy. You're never going to have an easy ride to the glory, the fame. It's going to be bumpy along the way, and you got to find ways to weather that storm. And that's a true gift. So people either, have it or they don't, but there's always ways you can grow on that. And that's definitely a huge part of what makes you successful in whatever career you choose.
Oh, I 100% agree with you, and I did want to take a step back a little bit, and so well, first of all, congratulations on your December graduation and for graduating a year early.
Yeah, it was crazy. You blink and the next thing you know, you're getting pictures in front of your, alma mater's buildings, and you're like, whoa, where did time go? And for me, it didn't feel real, honestly, for a while, because I was so busy my senior year. Most kids have a pretty lax senior year because they're just focused on either, for most kids, it's LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a priority of their senior year rather than, classes. They're trying to find that next job opportunity, which, don't get me wrong, I was on LinkedIn every single day. I was going to bed one night, waking up the next morning, and I had an interview scheduled, right? So like, you never knew what was going to happen the next day. But for me, my senior year was so busy, I didn't actually have a chance to sit down and really think about, my college years, how they were flashing in front of my eyes. But when I like had those like grad pictures taken, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is it. Like this is the real deal. And you only get it once. Like you only get undergrad once, right? You could go back and get a master's, but that's a little bit different. Undergrad only happens once, and those memories you have, you cherish for a lifetime. So, for those who are still in college, live it up while you still can, because yeah, while the workforce is great and the life after college is still equally as fun, the time that you get with your friends now, you'll never get back. Enjoy it while you can.
I 100%, fully agree with you. And I mean, that's definitely my advice as well. And I know, of course, while you were in college, you were involved within your PRSA chapter, but that's not why you actually went into college, though.
No, no, it's not. So it's funny you mentioned that, because I was a very different person when I came into college as compared to when I exited. So, and I'll kind of give you the overview of both. Coming out of high school, I committed to Millersville University, which is a small school in Lancaster, PA, but it's got a big heart, right? So small school, big heart. But I committed actually there to play ice hockey for their American Collegiate Hockey Association D3 team. So Millersville has a D3 and a D2 team. So I was selected to play on the D3 team there, and all was great, right? I mean, we were training hard. I mean, it was a rigorous schedule. I mean, we had 2 practices a week, both of which were at late times at night. Like, for example, and they were, let's say, I think like practice started for us like 11 o'clock at night. We had like an hour and a half practice. So we're getting off that ice around like 12:30 at night. And keep in mind, my first 2 years of college, I was a commuter, and Millersville is about 45 minutes away from where I live. So while that doesn't seem like a crazy drive, because some kids will drive over an hour to commute because that's like the limit for most colleges, it kind of took its toll, because you were coming home after extensive training on the ice, off the ice, and then by the time I got home, it was late at night, so I barely had enough time to get ready for the next day and then go to bed. And then the next morning, I had a PR class that started at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and that teacher, who is now one of my biggest advocates, at the time was really tough on me. She was really tough on me because she saw potential in me that I didn't even know I had. So, like, for example, one of my buddies, who's like still my best friend to this day, he was fine, getting his B's and his C's because he was putting in his best effort, right? And that wasn't his major, so he was content with that. Whereas I was, slaving away over here at this class and really trying to get at everything I had. And next thing I know, like I'm coming back with B's on these papers and these projects that I worked really hard on. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way this is a B effort paper. And no joke, I walked into her office one day and I looked at her and I held up the paper, and it had all this red over it. It looked like a Christmas tree. All right. It was decorated with so much red. It was an awful sight. I look at her, I hold out the paper. I'm like, I worked till like 2 in the morning on this. I'm not trying to make excuses over here, but what am I not doing right? What am I not doing right in this class to succeed and not get that next level, right? Not hit that next level, not get that grade that I deserve. She looked at me and she goes, "You sit down for a second." And I'm like, "Oh God, this is gonna be bad. I know where this is going on." She's like, "I know, I knew you hate me. I knew it. I knew you hated me. I knew you hated me." She didn't. She sat me down and she looked at me and she goes, "You have so much potential beyond your sport. Beyond your sport, you are so gifted in the field of PR, and you don't even know it. Like, you don't even know it. You don't even see it in yourself. You're just so focused on playing this game." And right then and there, I realized that I had a bigger purpose. I had a bigger purpose than just lacing up the skates every weekend and playing hockey, right? I realized that, as much as I love the game, it wasn't going to pay my bills, right? I was playing D3 ACHA. I wasn't going to go to the NHL, and I knew that. But so I battled through injuries and struggled to stay in the lineup. So I quickly realized that, hey, maybe I should take a step aside, and I did. And once I did that, an opportunity arose. And it was actually a broadcasting opportunity for that same team that I played for. I've never broadcasted a day in my life at that point. I was actually a journalist in high school for all 4 years, sports journalist, sports reporter. And, I've always loved the media, the writing, and the broadcasting world, but never had a chance to get into it. And now is my chance. So I practiced, did everything I could to learn, to grow. I had a mentor who was on the D2 team. He was their broadcaster. He was fantastic. He was really energetic, lively. The calls were fantastic, and the parents loved him. So he was kind of like the heart and soul of Millersville Ice Hockey. And he took me under his wing, and from there I learned. I grew, and for a while the parents hated me. The parents hated me because I had a very different style. I had a very different approach, and I wasn't polished yet. I wasn't where I am now. I wasn't as quick as I was. I mean, hockey's a quick game, so you got to be quick. You got to know your stats, and you got to do the work. And I just wasn't at that level yet. But then once I got into playoffs, I quickly kind of found my stride. And then from there, I never looked back. So I quickly started investing in myself, finding new opportunities to learn, to grow, to do anything and everything I could. My motto was that if I came home early in the day and the sun was still out, I didn't do something right. So if I was coming back to my college apartment or coming back to my house because I was still commuting and I could still see the sun, I wasn't doing something right. I wasn't getting the full college experience, and I wasn't finding the true version of me. So that's exactly what I did. So when I wasn't broadcasting over the weekends from Millersville Ice Hockey, I joined MUTV, which is Millersville University television station. And that was an incredible experience. I learned so much from that group of talented professionals about what it's like to be in a TV station, right? Whether it's being on set, being behind a camera, or being behind a switchboard. I mean, you name it, you learn so much in a fast amount of time that you're gaining so much valuable experience that I can never, ever, say thank you for, because it's just, you can't, like, it's just too much. So then I also quickly learned through a board on our communication building about an organization known as PRSA. So I was not in PRSA until we talked about this before the show, but it wasn't until I would say at least the earliest would have been my sophomore year in the spring. Because at that point in time, I'll be honest with you, our PRSA chapter was just not well advertised. It was struggling. We just didn't have a lot of members, so it really wasn't on the forefront of a whole lot of people, whereas MUTV was very well known. So I invested a lot of time into that first. But then once I kind of discovered this world of PRSA, I was enlightened and opened up to what the possibilities truly were, and they're limitless. So I quickly became a chapter member, went to a lot of these conferences, mentorships, and every November. So we are part of the PRSA Central PA chapter at Millersville. We do a lot of stuff with them because they'll host a lot of local events that have a lot of professionals. And anytime I could go, I jumped on it. I jumped on it, and I jumped on every opportunity I could, because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet. And as a result, I networked with so many industry professionals, multiple of which who have actually served as references for my current job. So yeah, I mean, you never know how long these connections will last and how well they'll help you in your future. So I mean, that's like the biggest thing I'll say too, because the me who when I came into college was just kind of in my shell, right? I was in my shell. I was content to be in that hockey bubble, right? I was content to hang around the hockey guys and just to be the hockey player. I wasn't focused on what the career was, the career path, the career goals. And when I left college, totally different, totally different. I knew my worth. I knew that, hey, I've put in years and years of hard work, long nights, early mornings to get to this point, right? So when you do all that and you realize what your end goal is, that moment when you walk across the stage is so much more validating, right? You walk across that stage with pride. You can hold your head up and know, hey, this is just the beginning. And for me, it was. I didn't have to wait long at all. And it's crazy how everything happened too, because the hard work you put in gets noticed, whether it's right away or later down the road. It gets noticed, I promise. And for those who are listening who might be in the broadcasting industry, they know it's hard. It's competitive, it's cutthroat. So my junior year of college, I had an opportunity actually. So this goes back to taking advantage of everything you possibly can. I was actually playing football with friends. It was like Thanksgiving football with friends. Everybody was home with college. It was awesome. It was a great time. I come in, no joke, and my phone's lighting up like a Christmas tree. It was like twinkling, buzzing, everything. So I check it out, of course, and it was actually my old high school hockey coach. I'm like, well, that's odd. I'm like, 2-3 years removed from high school. Why is he contacting me? And lo and behold, He was actually one of the assistant coaches at the time with the Hershey Cubs. They're a junior team in the United States Premier Hockey League, which is, a really good development league for kids ages 16 to 20, for their pathway to college hockey. So he texts me. He goes, "Hey, we are missing a broadcaster for tomorrow. He's out on he had to go somewhere with his fiance at the time or something like that." And he goes, "We need a fill-in guy. We need someone to fill in or call our game because the league mandates that they have to have somebody call each game." So I was like, "Yeah, I'm not even going to think twice about it." And I didn't think twice about it. So I never did a game with their technology before. So obviously I'm nervous coming in, right? I'm nervous coming in, but I did my thing. I did my thing the way I always know how to do it. I was confident. I was cool, calm, and collected. And during the intermission, I'm just sitting there and, just kind of enjoying the moment. And next thing I realize, there's a parent that comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder. I'm like, "Oh, good Lord. Did I say some kid's name wrong? Did I do something wrong?" Right? Because that's always the first thought that goes through my mind, right? Because by my nature, I'm a people pleaser. That's who I am. I love to please and I love to exceed expectations. I don't know who doesn't, but for me, it's always magnified. This gentleman comes up to me and he says he's the parent of one of the kids on the Cubs. And he goes, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm just a fill-in guy." I mean, so if I said something wrong, it was the guy next to me. It wasn't me, I promise. He goes, "I worked at a TV station out in Pittsburgh for years. And if you know anything about sports," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a pretty big Pittsburgh fan. I know a lot about Pittsburgh sports." He goes, "And you should know the name Myron Cope." And I'm like, Yeah, I know the name Myron Cope." He goes, "Well, I worked with Myron Cope. And I haven't heard many people that sound like a Myron Cope until I heard you today." He goes, "You're just a fill-in guy, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm not here for the long haul. I'm just helping out." And he goes, "How can we change that?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm just here helping out." He goes, let me pull some strings." So he talks to the team's manager, and next thing I know, she's coming up to me, and they offer me an internship on the spot. So that was like an incredible experience because I took an opportunity that was just supposed to be a fill-in moment and then turned it into an internship, which now has actually led to a full-time role. Now serve as the team's broadcaster and director of communications for every game, not just a fill-in game. And when the season's not in full swing, I'm writing articles, pitching events, earn media, you name it. I'm following that peso model to a T. But it's more than that. It's highlighting our community, this town that I grew up in, to kids who want to come and play junior hockey, right? So this past summer, we were trying to find new ways to recruit players because we recruit players from all across the world, not just here in the United States of America or Canada. So I was like, all right, how do I put this town on the map for kids who might not know what Hershey truly stands for? Because everybody thinks Hershey's like Willy Wonka chocolate factory, which while it is in an extent, it's so much more than that. So I, no joke, had this genius idea while I was just hanging out with my family in the middle of the living room, and I wrote it down. And next thing I know, we're filming it, and it's titled "Why Hershey." Um, and if anyone knows anything about Hershey, hockey is huge in this town. Huge. The team that is next door to the Hershey Cubs is the American Hockey League Hershey Bears, and they are the affiliates of the Washington Capitals from the NHL. And they are the 13-time Calder Cup champions, which is the most any franchise has won in the AHL. So they are like the most decorated franchise in the entire league. Hockey's no joke here. We take it pretty seriously. So I knew that, and I knew that would be a drawing card for kids who wanted to play here. So I reached out to those stakeholders because they do partner with us on a lot of events. And that's what you got to do in PR. You got to put a feeler out there, and if it sticks, great. If not, you know what? It's okay. Chalk it up, move on. So that's exactly what I did. I reached out to a good friend of mine, good connection of mine, the broadcast of the Hershey Bears, and I was like, "Hey, are you guys able to partner with me on this video? I think it would really kind of help with the appeal of our town, our community, and our team." And it was a resounding yes. It was a resounding yes. The Bears were able to pitch in and help out, and so did Penn State Health. Penn State Health is our health network here in the town, and they were able to provide footage and really, really great stuff. The video surpassed my expectations. And it actually ended up winning a PRSA Central PA chapter Digital Keystone Communications Award. And that was right before the holidays. I got the message on December 23rd, and I was blown away. So you quickly learn through college what you're made of. And for me, Millersville helped me realize that I had the tools, I had the support system, and I can make it happen. And so can you. So can you. If you find yourself the right support system, the right motivation, the sky's the limit. You just got to have that motivation and that self drive, because only the person that's going to stop you is you. I rambled there. I'm sorry.
No worries at all. And I will say, I love the imagery in your storytelling, and I like that you're able to guide us from the beginning to the end, or should I say the present, long way from the end. In terms of your involvement within like I said, within your work. And I mean, I think that's just so great that one thing was able to lead to another. That you had that one professor that really believed in you and was able to help. I mean, motivate yourself a little bit more, that then push you to where you are now.
She was incredible. I mean, from the moment I first met her, she saw something in me, and it never stopped. She was so hard on me, and you know what? I needed every moment of that. So like, if you have a professor right now that's challenging you, pushing you that extra mile, embrace it. Enjoy it, because it's going to make you so much better. Like, we got into PR2, which is our public relations writing course here at Millersville. It was hard. Like, it really puts some hair on your chest if you're not ready for it, because what they basically do is they hand you an assignment, right? So for example, they'll say, all right, here's like a fake news, breaking news clip. Write us a news release. They don't tell you how to write a news release. They just want you to write a news release. And you're supposed to submit in whatever you feel like is best. So the rough drafts were always graded out of like 50 or 30. So it would come back, it would be like 20 out of 50, and my heart would sink. My heart would sink because like no one knew what they were doing. But you know what? Then they took us down, they looked over it, and then by the next time we did it, it was perfect. It was flawless. And it wasn't easy, right? Because by the end of it all, we actually had to make a whole public relations binder that had fact sheets, news releases, play scripts. I mean, you name it, it had it. Radio scripts, it was the whole shebang. So, a lot of my first drafts on these were just me trying to do the best I could, piece it together. I didn't look at it through a B2B lens, right? I was more of a B2C kind of perspective on it. And once I kind of ditched that mentality and really put on my professional coat, I mean, it was night and day difference. And to this day, she actually uses my binder as an example of what she wants kids to actually model their portfolio after. But like, the thing is too, like I'll use that binder on a regular basis during interviews and stuff like that, because those samples are still to this day, because she pushed me so hard, some of my best pieces. And she, a good professor is life changing. It really is.
So I'm so glad that you were able to to have that connection in that push. And I love being able to hear a bit about where you live and the great community that
Love it here.
that you have. I mean, that it truly is outstanding to hear that, because I know oftentimes after college, and during college too, is that it's oftentimes like going for the best of the best and the greater and this and that. But I've always been a community person. I very much love, like I said, for me, in my community of Hampton Roads, Virginia, I love it. And so I love it whenever, people are proud of their community and want to give back and contribute to it.
It's funny you mentioned that you're from Hampton Roads, because that was actually, so when we send our projects off for the Keystone Award judging, it's judged by a random PRSA chapter. So like a professional PRSA chapter from anywhere in the country. And I'm not joking when I tell you that mine was judged by the PRSA chapter in Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Oh my
So
gosh.
what are the odds, right?
Wow, that is outstanding. I mean, to hear about that, I'm so glad that my chapter, I guess, thinks fondly, Lisa, of your, of your work, and was able to work towards that. And as a
Your
little,
chapter, a big shout out for me, because they gave me a lot of credit. It was awesome,
well,
totally unexpected.
I definitely have to, like I said, let them know that, and like I said, that's just truly outstanding. And I guess as a little fun fact too, is that for about a week, give or take, in June going into July of 2024, is that I actually visited Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Did you?
Yeah,
It's probably packed. It was the summer months. There's concerts here. The park's open. It's a madhouse here in the summer. Trust me. Tourist season, man. It's brutal, brutal. You get all the people coming down from New York and New Jersey. It's this town. This town fills up like a beehive in the summer months.
I can only imagine, and so it was my first time really in Pennsylvania. I very briefly had been to Pennsylvania before, but what I mean by that is like I was on the border of Pennsylvania before,
Okay.
and so like you know, but this is the first time really actually spending time there, and I really loved being able to visit and the scenery, and of course we saw Hershey Park too. But I always like to explore more than just the big attractions, so to speak. Like I like being able to explore the community, local establishments, and so it was a really fun visit.
Oh, it's funny that you mentioned Hershey Park because that was actually my first job. My first job is actually a ride operator at Hershey Park, and that's also an important message as well, right? Because no matter what your first job is, take those skills that you learn and apply them throughout your career. I mean, because when I was a ride operator, yeah, I'm sending coasters out, pushing buttons, buckling people in, right? I don't do that, as a communications coordinator now, right? No, I don't. But what I do is learn how to do conflict management, right? So that's crisis communication. And you're also needing to learn how to communicate with the general public as a whole, right? So I quickly learned those skills at Hershey Park because you had to communicate with guests properly if a ride, was experiencing a temporary delay, or if there was a rain closure or something like that. You had to learn how to manage those situations properly and say the right things in those situations to not only make the guests happy and understand what was happening, but also to adhere to like our guidelines, because like, believe it or not, we were never allowed to say the ride broke down. Like if we said the ride is broken down right now, we would get in big trouble for that. And I mean, as you should. I mean, because that instills fear in the guest that something is wrong. And we really they really hold their operators to a high standard. So working in that company, for my first job was really great because it taught me a lot of skills that have really translated well into my current career.
I absolutely love that, and I'm so glad that you were able to even, I mean, draw a line between, your first job then
Yeah.
and, and who you are, today, and before I even ask about, more in depth about your PRSA experience, I actually want to take a step back. So I know you said that you graduated a year and a half early, which again, massive congratulations on
Thank
that,
you.
and I'd actually love to hear all about that and whether it was intentional or not.
No, it, it definitely was not. It just kind of happened. I didn't go into college thinking they'll be like, oh yeah, let's graduate early, right? That's definitely going to be the plan. It was not. I think it just kind of happens. For me, the really reason why it did happen so quickly was because, believe it or not, I had an internship all 4 years of college. Yeah, yeah, which was a lot of thanks and credit to just really kind of staying up to date on applications and stuff like that. But my university is fantastic with experiential learning services and stuff like that. They really push those opportunities on you. So for me, I really kind of got on the Handshake quickly because that's what we used at that point in time as a freshman. It was Handshake, the Handshake platform for jobs and internships. And my first internship actually was with a marketing team that actually manufactures displays and designs called White Oak Display and Design, based out of Palmyra. And they actually do like the displays that you'll see at Cabela's. So like the Cabela's displays, the displays at Chocolate World, the displays at the Utz factories that display the chips and stuff like that. I mean, you name it, they do it. It was pretty incredible. And so I started as a marketing intern there, and I'm really happy I did because it was a lot of the analytical components of marketing. So I quickly learned in that role that I'm like, hey, this is not for me. All these spreadsheets, all these numbers, all these metrics, it's not how my brain works. It's not how I'm wired. And you know what? That's okay. You learn, you keep going, and for the future that, hey, this definitely isn't what I'm looking for. So you keep looking. And then I got lucky enough because one of my teachers at the time um, was able to actually get me into the Susquehanna Style, which is like the premier lifestyle magazine in the Susquehanna Valley. And that was in the fall of my sophomore year. And to be honest, dude, that was one of my favorite internships to this day. It is an incredibly competitive internship to get into because they have like over 30 or 40 applicants, and they only take like 2 people. So it's pretty competitive for a sophomore to get it. It's not easy. So big shout out to my professor for helping me get that one there. But that one, in that role, I had the chance to write like feature articles on things happening around the community, events. But my favorite article I did, it was actually like the very last article I wrote. It was called "A Talk of a Town." So they do like these big series where like they feature an entire town, and you pick like local businesses to feature. And I picked, I got New Hope, Pennsylvania, which is one of my favorite towns in the entire state of PA. You got to put on your bucket list to visit for sure. It is gorgeous, so much history, just a beautiful place. And to this day, I didn't know that my article was meant so much to that town. But when me and my girlfriend actually went back and visited the town for our 2-year anniversary, went to a candle making studio that I wrote about. I featured in my article, and we're making candles. And I look over on the wall, and my article is framed in the wall. And I was like, "Is that the article from the Susquehanna Style?" The lady paused, and she goes, "Yeah, why?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be my article." She goes, "You wrote that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I wrote that on your business way back my sophomore year when I looked a lot younger and had a lot less hair." She goes, "That article was like incredible. You wrote that?" I'm like, "Yeah." I definitely think we got nice treatment after that article. So you never know what happens like that. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, so that one was my second internship. Loved it. Great experience. And then was my third was the Cubs. So that would have been my junior year. I got in there as a junior, interned there for about a year, and then that transferred on now to a full-time role. But then actually, so my going into my towards the end of my junior year, so I've been the summer right before my senior year. So the summer right before my senior year, and right before that winter break. So way back winter break during my junior year, I attended a PRSA sponsored by the Central PA PRSA chapter. It was like a bowling night, and it was during finals week, right? So it was really tough to make it because you had to be disciplined, right? You had to get your studying in to be able to go. So a lot of people weren't able to go from our chapter, which I totally understand. But I was lucky enough to be able to kind of have a light week during that time period. So I, of course, went. I went, took the chance, and I met someone there who was like the deputy digital communications director from PennDOT. And I'm like, "Hey, are you looking for interns this summer?" They're like, "Yeah, we're looking for communications intern." And I'm like, "Perfect, bingo." And boom, next thing you know, that process was a little bit more lengthy because I'll be honest with you, that was the first time in which I actually had to do the actual quote unquote interview process for an internship. So I never really experienced that before because my first one, I got really lucky. I applied for White Oak, and it was like the application was only open for like 3 days. So I got really lucky. I applied on like the Friday, and they closed it on a Sunday. And the next thing I know, I got a call back on like a Wednesday, and they ended up selecting me. So that one I got lucky for. There wasn't a whole lot of competition there on that one. But then the other one, the Susquehanna Style, I kind of got, thrown into because my professor advocated for me. So I really didn't actually have to go through the formal interview process. I no joke sat down for one interview. My hiring manager was like, "Yeah, we like you. When can you start?" And I'm like, wait. I'm being hired on the spot. They go, "Yes." I'm like, "Perfect. I'll start after Labor Day weekend." So PennDOT for me was my first actual, attempt at going through the interview process and really trying to navigate that competitive market, right? And before PennDOT came along, I was really working my way through the process of a communications internship at Hershey Entertainment and Resorts. And I thought I was a shoo-in. I thought I was a shoo-in because I broadcast for the Cubs. I do their communications. I worked for the company for like 5 years. So I'm like, there's no way they can't pick me. There's no way. They didn't. They didn't pick me. And you know what? It's okay. Everything happens for a reason. But that was the first time dealing with rejection. And it's hard. It's not easy, especially when the town that you grew up working for is the one that rejects you. That one cut deep. That one cut really deep. But right then and there, I realized, I'm like, all right, what am I doing wrong? Right? Because we always talk about that RPI, right? Of public relations. This is when that evaluation phase really comes in, especially during interviews. You got to evaluate everything you might have said, done, and figure out, okay, how can I do better next time? And that's exactly what I did. And so by the time the PennDOT interview came around, I crushed it. I crushed it like it was a grand slam. That thing was out of the park, right? No chance. And PennDOT was all for it. And it was great. I learned a lot from PennDOT. Met a lot of great people, got to work with the secretary of the department, and I got to meet the governor of Pennsylvania twice. So I mean, that was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. Meeting the governor of Pennsylvania twice, regardless of your political views. I mean, just meeting somebody that magnitude was incredible. Awesome. It was an awesome experience, and he's a great guy too. So yeah, 4 internships, took some classes over the summer, and next thing I know, I'm graduating in 3.5 years. So to answer your question, no, it was definitely not planned.
I love that, and I'm glad that you were able to. I mean, to have those internship opportunities, to graduate early, meet the governor twice, which
was awesome. It was
yeah,
so awesome.
yeah. And I would say, to add to that, is not only did you meet the governor twice, but you did so in an official capacity and not just like a admirer from the
I didn't
outside.
just ring his doorbell and be like, can you sign my car or something like that? Do you have your autograph? No, it wasn't like that.
Which, I mean, I think is in of itself, I mean, just so outstanding. And I like that you mentioned, I mean, the importance of getting that rejection, even because, you think that for some opportunities that it's like it's meant to happen. Like, there's no way that it can potentially go another way.
And then you're surprised because, like, I was shocked because they had a pretty lengthy interview process too. They did like a phone screening, which is pretty common nowadays. So I passed that, and then no joke. So it was right after I actually was coming from a Hershey Bears game. I was shadowing the broadcaster of the Hershey Bears that night, and then I came home. It was a great night. I was on a high, feeling great, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this like one-way interview right now, and I did. So that was probably one of the weirdest interviews I've ever done because I'm a kind of conversationalist guy. So talking to myself feels a little bit weird at times. So basically what it is, it's kind of like a screen right now where they'll flash like a question up along the top of the bar and you get like, I don't know, about 2 minutes or a minute to answer it fully. And then you click next once it's done. So however you respond to that is what you have to submit. You don't get a chance to re-record. So if you mess up or if you miss something, there's no chance you go back. So and you don't know what questions are going to ask because you can't preview them ahead of time. So yeah, that one was tough. So, but you go through all that just to get the no letter the day of my 21st birthday. It was tough. It was a rough 21st birthday. We'll just say that. But you know what? It's for the better. It really is because it made me a stronger individual on my career. And I have all the respect in the world for that company. I mean, they do incredible things. So it's totally business decision. I get it.
I mean, I think to add, one of my own personal stories about sort of the first experience with that type of rejection, I think has a sort of similar feel of how you thought, like, oh, well, you do all the stuff associated with the company you used to work, and,
Right.
in part for that it's, your town. Is that for me, when I was in 8th grade applying for different magnet high schools, and so everyone who was in our school, because I went to a STEM magnet, automatically got accepted to the STEM magnet high school. But I wanted to go to the communication magnet instead, and so I put in my application. I was like, well, I'm for the most part, maybe an occasional BSI. It's like I'm always a student, and I'm zoned for the school anyway, so I'm just going to apply, get into the program. I've heard great things, and so. And I put in photography as a backup for a submagnet, but I was like, I'm not going to need it because, Yeah, and then
Famous last words right there.
yeah, and so I remember I got the letter in the mail, or actually I don't know who brought it in, but the letter came into the mail, and so I remember my dad made joke. It's like, what, they're gonna say that you're rejected, and so yeah, he opened it up, and yeah, he started making up words, and it's just like, but the real words are just like, I've been waitlisted for both magnets. It's like, really? It's like, I think the craziest part about it is that that's the school I'm going to anyway, regardless of whether I'm accepted or
Yeah.
not. And so, but it was a lottery system for what I found out later. And so it had nothing to do with academics. So it was like, well, this is kind of unfortunate because not only did I not get accepted into the program, I'm going to the school anyway. So,
Yeah,
but never, yeah.
that's tough. I mean, because and that's kind of the way it is when you apply for internships. Well, it's not a lottery system per se, right? Somebody else could just do just enough to edge you out, right? Like you might have all the experience in the world, but that's the tough thing, right? You don't know what they're looking for. So, right, Hershey Entertainment Resorts at that point in time, that company might have been looking for somebody that didn't have this, that had the skills that I didn't, right? Maybe they wanted someone who was that marketing background. That wasn't me. You know what? If that's the case, great. It all worked out. So, like, you never know what they're looking for. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice, too, that I would give to somebody as well. Because when I just interviewed for the full time job that I have now, I I was personal. I was personal as to why I wanted that job, right? I just didn't say why I was a good fit for the role. Everybody can be a good fit for the role, but what makes you stand out, right? What makes you stand out in that position is what's going to set you apart. So, for example, when I was on that call with Select, I told them about my story. I told them I was a Children's Miracle Network child. I almost died. And I told them, I straight up, I was like, you know what? At one point in time, I had less than a 40% chance to live. And every day I live my life that I'm going to be 40% better than the next day because that was the number that I was given to live. And I think that resonated with them because they work with a lot of critical illness patients. So, I mean, you're going to see the miracles and you're going to see the harsh realities of healthcare. So, and we got to tell that story, in the most respectful and ethical way possible. So, when you're interviewing for a company like, a healthcare industry, know the company, right? Know the patients they treat, know who they work with, do your research because then you can maybe find a story from your personal life to relate to and then set yourself apart.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely really want to, of course, dive into that personal journey after graduation. But I guess first to catch us up to the sort of present, I'll go ahead and finish my story, and then I'll say the last of the, sort of your undergraduate tales before heading into that. But for me, I definitely feel that despite for me, yeah, not getting into the magnet, it benefited me in the long run because I was able to focus on the classes I had and to fully dedicate myself to them were enough where I was able to start college early, graduate college, start start college early, graduate college early,
Yeah.
finish my master's program. Thank you, and and be where I am now, and even be a part of in my view, from personal experience, a much better program that I'm still involved in now that um, that I otherwise wouldn't have known about. And so sometimes, things just have a way of working out. You just may not know the plan just yet.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more because it's funny you say that because when I was in my senior year of college, I was actively interviewing from like the moment the leaves were falling off the trees. The moment the trees were turning red, orange, and yellow or whatnot, I was interviewing. So I had a great interview, actually great 3 interviews with like a marketing agency in Harrisburg. And everything was pointing in the right direction. They were showing interest. I thought it looked great. It was close to home. My girlfriend's moving back home in the area. So for us, it would have worked out perfectly. I'm like, this is perfect. It's going to be a perfect fit. And for me, I'll be like, guess what? I can say I have a job before I even graduate. Like I was all excited, amped up. I was counting my chickens, my eggs before they hatched. And I got an email back that was rejection. And I was shocked. I was shocked because I thought I played the game. I thought I played the game well. I thought I, made it personal, made it relatable. I mean, there were people in that company that I interviewed with who went to my school. So I was like, I got it. Like, and I felt really confident. And that really made me kind of reevaluate my whole interview strategy because I just wasn't sure if I was, hitting the right buttons, hitting the mark or whatnot. But I just felt like there was something missing. And you know what? I'm really glad that was my first interview before I got a job because your first interview, you're always your shakiest, right? You're nervous, you're anxious because there's a level of uncertainty and anxiety there that's, it's hard to kind of hide down, right? It's kind of hard to suppress. But once you get through that, through those jitters, those nerves, you're more confident on those second and those third interviews. So by the time select medical roll around, that was like my sixth interview. So I was buzzing. I was feeling it. And you know what? When I got off that call, I knew it was different. Like you can feel it. Like there's a feeling you feel when you crushed it versus like when you're shaky. And it's a really good feeling. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you did crush it. And like I said, to finish out, like I said, the high school aspect. I mean,
Yeah.
and so to finish out, like I said, the undergraduate aspect of everything, I did want to ask. So, how was it from you and sort of the broad scope of things, especially in retrospect? Going from leaving, doing hockey, due to injuries at the beginning of your college journey, to your involvement in PRSA and up until graduation day. Like, how was all of that for you? Because I know it probably happened in like a closer time than you'd think, even though those are probably numerous different segments of your life happening.
It was really hard. I'm not gonna, lie and sit here and say it was easy to close that door of playing, because it wasn't. Um, I actually ended up going back my sophomore year and got injured again. So at that point in time, I was like, yeah, I knew it was time to close the chapter on that. But in that moment, freshman year, it was hard. But I knew it was the right decision, not only for my health, but for my career. I mean, my brain is my moneymaker, right? It's not my athletic abilities. It's my brain and my creativity and my, ability to thrive in my career. And I kind of was seeing that. So, but I knew I couldn't just give up hockey and not do anything, right? I knew I had to immerse myself into so much to be where I could still be around the game because that was like what I really wanted, right? For a while, I wanted to be in sports and I was going to chase that for the longest time that I possibly could. And to some aspect, I still am. Um, but I realized though, through a lot of conversations with mentors and professors, I mean, the odds of you making it into the sports broadcasting world are hard. I mean, they're slim to none, right? But it could be done. But I knew quickly because we did this like lifestyle preferences activity early on in one of my PR classes, talking about what do you prefer for like your lifestyle choices, right? Do you want to live in the city or suburbs? Do you want to travel for work? And for me, I I don't really want to be immersed in the grind that is sports. And that's how I stumbled upon PR. And yeah, leaving that sports life kind of on the back burner. I mean, it's still there, right? It's always there. And look, if the NHL called, I would probably pick up the phone. I wouldn't decline it. Let's just say that. But every point in my life, from the moment I left, everything, not even just when I got to college, but throughout my entire life, there's stepping stones, right? So hockey for me was a stepping stone into college. It helped me develop friends, connections, community, involvement, because you need that, right? You need that because when you come to a new school, you don't know anybody, you're unfamiliar with the whole town, everything. Having that group of guys to kind of rally around, show me the ropes, because they'd been there. There were some veterans in the room. That was really helpful, and it really kind of helped me mature a lot quicker. So then from that point, leaving that behind, but in a different capacity, right? Because putting on the headset, trading the skates in for the headset, it felt like I was still there. It felt like for me, I didn't lose anything at all. In fact, I felt actually happier. Felt like hockey for me for like a while was beating me down because it was stressful. It's a lot of work to be a college athlete. So, but trading that in for a headset actually really helped me mental health wise, and I fell in love with it. And again, another stepping stone there, made a podcast, a huge stepping stone forward in my media career, broadcasting career. And then, MUTV kind of found my way in there, and like everything was kind of like a timeline, right? It's not always a perfect timeline. It's a little zigzaggy, a little all over the place. It's kind of like more like a roadmap, I guess you'll say. One of those roadmaps, all right? The destination to graduation, it's never a straight path. All right. So if you think your destination to graduation or your career journey is going to be a straight path, I'm here to tell you it's not. It's not. It's going to be a little windy. And for me, it was very windy along the way, but it was great nonetheless.
Well, I'm glad that that you were able to to find your way and and follow that roadmap. Or as I say sometimes, it's like yeah, it's almost like those drawings where you have to sort of connect all the different dots. But sometimes there's these extra dots that just don't really connect to anything. They're
Nope.
just
They're just
there.
there. They're just there. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Because yeah, I got a lot of those extra dots that are just they're just there. And you know what? I'm thankful for those extra dots because maybe that extra dot is a friend, right? Who maybe doesn't have any connections in my career, but give me a lot of great memories, right? But maybe that extra dot was a sport that I quit playing, or maybe that extra dot was, a podcast that I started and then stopped. Those extra dots help you get to that one big dot. And that's all it's all about, really.
Oh, 100%. And then when you approach graduation day, you officially graduate, half a year early. And so, how was that day for you? And then, how was the aftermath of the sort of, as you said in your email, I've graduated. Now what?
The day of graduation, I felt like I was stuck in a trance. I felt like I was almost sleepwalking all day, if that even makes any logical sense. But yeah, like we arrived at the graduation. I'm sitting down there, and then they call your name. Right? When they call your name to walk across that stage, it's like, whoa, like this just happened. Like this just happened. So in that moment, you're caught up in the pomp and circumstance, right? You're enjoying it. You're celebrating with your friends, your family, your loved ones. So, but you're not thinking about it. The next day you wake up, the next day you wake up and you realize you're like, I just graduated. What happens next? Because you don't know, right? Nobody knows. There's no instructions. There's no manual. No one tells you what's going to come next. And I think for me, my biggest fear all along was so my girlfriend she's graduating this year in May. And my biggest fear was what if she graduates and I don't have a job? Like what if she goes back to school, right? Because my whole thing was I didn't want her to go back to school and me be sitting at home still job searching. That terrified the living daylights out of me. Because I'll be honest, dude, people will tell you, like, they'll give you advice and they'll be like, hey, don't be too picky, but be picky. Some people don't find their first job for months. And you know what? That's okay. That's really, really okay. Um, but for me, like, it was a constant grind. Like, I wasn't really ever satisfied. I'll never forget. I think it was, oh my goodness, we were on our way actually to go to Bethlehem with our family because we were doing like ice skating at Chris Kindlemart and everything. And no joke, I was using a hotspot to apply to jobs and stuff like that, and even internships. Like I was throwing my hat in the ring for literally anything and everything, just because for me, I always had to feel like I had one active application in process. I don't know if that's just a me thing. It might be I might be just a comfort thing, but at all points in time, I always felt like I had to have something in the works. Just because it was like a security blanket, it was comforting to know that hey, I have a potential lead. And I know going into the holiday season, I had 3 leads, one of which worked out. Right, so that's one in three. Right, so it's not easy, right? It's really, really hard. It's hard and it's stressful. Like it really took a toll on me. There was a side of me I didn't like because I was staying up late at night, just stressing over the unknown. And don't do that. Don't do that. Let it come to you, right? Let it happen, but don't just sit back, right? Attack it, but don't stress yourself out by attacking it so much that you lose sight of the moment that you just accomplished, right? You just accomplished one of the biggest moments of your life. Don't shift your focus to the next big thing. Enjoy that moment, right? And I was able to enjoy the moment, right? It was great. But I think for me, I have such a go, go, go mentality that the minute I kind of slow down and stop, I'm like, all right, what's next? What's next? What's next? Don't do that. Don't be like me. All right. Trust your timing. Trust your timing. Everybody's looks different, right? So don't look at the person next to you and be like, well, they got a job and about after a month they graduated. Their path is different than yours, right? It might take you the 4, the 5, the 6 months. But you know what? When that job comes along, it's going to speak to you. I got very lucky. When Select came along, I read the job description and it sounded like me, right? That doesn't happen to everybody. It doesn't happen to everybody. So I was fortunate enough to get very, very lucky at a very early time. But you know what? There's a lot of great opportunities opening up here in May, right? So for all those graduates who are graduating in May, enjoy your moment, enjoy your ceremony, but don't leave opportunities on the table. If it's there, take it. And I'll tell you why you want to take it. I was going to apply for and it would have been logistically a nightmare. But you know what? It would have been a really cool position for me at the time if I wasn't thinking about logistics, which you should always think about logistics. So don't do that. But it was a like media specialist position for the United States Hockey League, which is like the top tier level of juniors in the United States of America. A lot of those kids go on to play, NCAA Division One or straight to the NHL. So they were hiring for a media specialist, and I told myself it'll be there in the morning. I'll apply in the morning. I woke up the next morning, the job was gone. The message there: don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait. And always, so what I did too was for a while when I was doing internships, I never submitted a cover letter just because it was tedious. And you often hear that most people just don't read them. I can probably tell you that's not going to be true when you're applying for a job. When you're applying for a job, they take everything into consideration. Yeah, they might look at your cover letter, kind of glance at it, and it's not going to be a deciding factor. That's correct. But writing a cover letter gives you that advantage over somebody who might not have. So my recommendation for cover letters is keep like a master doc. All right. And I'll explain why. So you apply for so many positions after you graduate, you can't keep them all straight, right? You can't. It's just, there's too much. So what I did was I actually created this cover letter in Canva that basically was a copy and paste kind of doc that had my signature on it and everything. And it also had my personal logo on it, right? Create your brand. Create your brand the minute you get out, right? So that way you can market yourself. Because if you don't have a job right away, be self-employed. Market yourself. Because that way when the job does come along, you might have that demo reel. You might have that logo. You might have that website, right? So, and I would recommend that because believe it or not, as put together as I might seem, I don't have a website. I don't have a demo reel. I have a business card, but that's because I went out to PRSA's Icon event, right? Because I had to have those. I don't have all the bells and whistles that you might need to really solidify that position. Do the extra work, right? So if you're not applying right away, but you're working on your brand, that's a success in my eyes. Because how are you going to represent somebody else's brand if you can't represent your own brand, right? You got to think about that, right? Because at the core of public relations, it's a management function, right? That maintains and establishes a brand's identity and upholds that mutually beneficial relationship. If you have no direction or clear vision about what your mission statement is as an individual, you're already out of the game. You're already on the bench, right? Think about it that way. What is your mission statement? That's the big MO. When you're applying for jobs, when you think I've graduated, now what? Well, what's your mission statement? What's your mission statement as an individual? What are you looking for? Right? And I'll be the first person to tell you, be picky, but be open. There's a difference. There's a difference between being picky and being open. You can be both at the same time, and that's exactly what you want to be. You don't want to be too picky that you become selective, right? Selective and picky are very different things. Picky means that you're picking the options that are best for you in the situation, right? Let's be honest. It might not be your best dream job out the gate. In all reality, it's probably not going to be. But if you're picky, that means you know your worth. That means you know your worth, so you're not going to settle for something less than you deserve. And that is always important because employers might lowball you. But if you don't know your worth and if you don't know your brand, you're going to be able to just be convinced that, you know what, you're worth maybe $15 an hour, or you're worth that minimum, salary job that your friends are making 10 times more than you because they know their worth. Know your worth. Know what you stand for. Know the kind of quality of a product that you put out there, and you got to be able to market that as well. So knowing your worth is number one that I would say. Being picky and not selective is number two, and being open to anything and everything is huge as well. And reach out to mentors. Be active on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is a magical tool at your fingertips. Don't fail to use it.
I really love, Lisa, that advice that you had just given for, for those tuning in, and even like for, myself as well. And I think something that I would love to add to that is to also know what you don't want to do, what you're not comfortable with, but then asking yourself, why is that? You don't have that doesn't mean that you need to go do the thing that scares you. That might be a bit too much of a step, but at least figuring out the why, because then you can figure out a solution around that as well.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, the job search in general is going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be straight up and honest with you. Like my job search lasted, I mean, when it started and ended, it was months. I started in like October and I didn't start until January 20th. So keep that in mind, right? It might look like I had a success coming out the gate. You got to keep in mind though, I didn't hear back from probably what, 20, 30 places, right? And you know what? That is not a you thing. That's not on you. You got to keep going, keep chugging, keep moving along, and on to the next one, right? There's no time when you're searching to dwell. You can't dwell, but you can ask employers, what made me not stand out, right? What sets somebody else apart from me? Some companies are allowed to divulge that information, some aren't, right? But you have the right to ask that. And you know what? Take advantage of that. Don't miss out on that.
Oh, 100%. And I did want to ask, too, a little bit catching up to the present. So you had mentioned a few times about how, you were a, miracle baby, and that and that because of, the, medical professionals and, and faith and other things have been allowed you to get to where you are now. So now, of course, having a job where you are within healthcare public relations. How does this feel, for you personally, and how was it when you had gotten that, not just the acceptance from the company, but then when you decide to accept?
It's the best feeling in the world. I'll walk you through the whole story actually. So it was early January. It was funny because I saw the job. I think it was like actually right around early December or late November. So it was like right after Thanksgiving when the job went up, I think. So it was like late in the fall, and I applied. I didn't hear anything from a while. You know what? I'm like, they probably moved on. It probably isn't going to be me. It's all right. I'll keep looking. Get an email from their HR recruitment coordinator, and they wanted to do a phone screening interview. And of course, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's set it up. So always when this kind of stuff happens, make sure you know your schedule because you don't want to delay the email response because the sooner you can respond back, the more professional you look. Just keep that in mind. Always make sure you have a calendar on your hand, whether it's a physical calendar or your phone. Just figure out what works for you and make sure you keep it on you. So that way, when the time comes and they give you that email, you can respond back with urgency because that stuff matters. People look at that. So I responded back. We went to the phone screening interview. It was great. I loved what they had to say. I love what they stand for. And they moved me on to the next round, which was a one-on-one call with my current boss, who's like the senior manager of of communications and branding at Slick Medical. And it was honestly nerve-wracking because I had time to prepare for it. But you know what? That time you just keep thinking and keep thinking and keep thinking about it. So time is always great, but time is also terrifying. So you got to balance the best of both emotions. But it was funny because that day that I interviewed with that role, I had another interview right before that. So I had an interview before that at like 8 a.m. And then I had a break, and then I had this interview. And I hop on, she hops on. It was great. I mean, the fact that we were able to just kind of have a normal conversation where it didn't feel like a suit and tie, trying to interrogate you. It was a casual conversation with just two human beings who are passionate about the field. So for me in that moment, I was like, wow, this is special. And I shared my story, I shared what it meant to me, and I was passionate about it. And I made sure I clearly conveyed that while also highlighting my experience in the field. So I made sure I was, applicable, experience wise, but also passionate about the role enough to really succeed in this position. And the call right before like the call was going to expire, she looks at me, and because I asked her what the next steps are, right? Because you always ask that, right? At the end of an interview, don't, if they ask you what questions you have, if you don't have any questions, you're not going to get the job. Like, don't do that. Like, you always got to have questions. Even if you got to fake it till you make it, ask questions. Like, that just is a bad look. So, my question was, what were the next steps in the process? And she looks at me, and because we were actually packing up that day to go to a ski trip, like, we were leaving the next morning for Vermont, because I love to ski as well, and it was my first time going out there, so we were all very excited. So, I'm like, "Well," she goes, "we'd have to do a next interview," and she goes, "You mentioned something about a ski trip, like, leaving tomorrow, is that correct?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're leaving tomorrow pretty relatively early in the morning, so I wouldn't have time," because we were gone for a week too, so it wasn't like, this also made me anxious too, because I'm like, what if they want to keep interviewing me and I'm in like the ski cabin and I don't have good Wi-Fi and I'm coming in interviewing with my ski goggles on? Talk about how professional that looks, right? So I was like terrified that I'd have to like push this interview back like a whole 2 weeks, and by then they might just move on and find somebody else. So she looks at me and she goes, "What about today?" And I'm like, "What? Excuse you?" She goes, "Today." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "What are you doing today?" I'm like, "Well, I got another interview after this." So, and I think that kind of worked to my advantage. I wasn't trying to use it as kind of like a bargaining chip or anything like that, but they really moved quick on me, really fast, and I was caught off guard, like totally shocked. I'm like, "Well, I have another interview after this." She goes, "How does 3 o'clock work?" I'm like, I mean, I'm free then." She goes, "Perfect. You're going to interview with our senior director of communications and our vice president of branding." And I'm like, I'm going to puke, because this was hard, because you prepared for one interview, right? So you're not expecting to be immediately fast tracked into a second interview with like the really big higher ups, right? So now I'm like, oh crap, I got to do like double the prep for the interview that's coming up next and for the interview that could lead to more. So the biggest thing I'll recommend, your starting point for prepping, LinkedIn. Look at where people worked at. Look at what they created. Look at what they did in previous roles. So for example, let's say they started a newsletter that increased, readership or viewership by 50%. Make sure you mention that. Find the nitty-gritty things that people might not dig up that you can use. And that's exactly what I did. So I came prepared and I came ready to rock and roll. And I knew both of their stories. I knew where they were at before they came to, the company that I'm at with now. And it was like a home run. Like, they asked me, my opinion on the role, and don't be also afraid to come with suggestions. Because I looked at them right in the eye, and these are pretty big people in the company. They're like one of our higher ups. I looked at them and I go, "If you have a moment, I have some suggestions to run by you of how we could improve our digital strategy." And they're like, yeah, let's hear them. And use your youth as an advantage. You'd be surprised how many people in the communications world are unaware of certain trends going on or what the younger demographic is gravitating towards. Like, so for example, everybody here should probably know the Vogue, what is it, 72 questions, right? Those blew up on YouTube a couple years back, where Vogue went into these famous people's houses and really kind of changed the interview scene, right? So they really found a way to make interviews more dramatic, more cinematic, and it was a huge hit. And I suggested that on the call. I suggested doing like fun interactive videos using like, famous TikTok songs like We Bring the Boom or something like that, whatever it might be. But it was like, it was great. They really were well receptive to the ideas, and I thought it was great. So I thought I did well, but then they're like telling me, all right, you'll hear back from us in a couple days. So I wasn't expecting anything right away. No joke. All right. The next morning, I wake up, I'm getting ready to pack my bag to go skiing. I'm literally walking out to the car with my skis on my shoulder, and my phone starts ringing. And I had my family was with me. They're like, "Hey, your phone's ringing," and I'm like, "Guys, this is like a number, like this is like an area number, like an area code number." Like, well, answer it. Don't just look at it. I'm like, all right. Lo and behold, it's the company that I interviewed with, and who's now my current boss. She was on the end of the line, and she goes, "Hey, did we catch it right in time before you left for Vermont?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you did." And she goes, "You didn't pack everything up yet, did you?" I'm like, "Almost. Why? What do I need to pack something more?" She goes, "You might need your laptop." I'm like, "Oh." She goes, "Everybody here at the company really likes you, and they think you're going to be a fantastic fit. Bring your laptop. You'll see why in a couple days." So, no joke, I'm in the ski lodge sending out resume, like reference requests to anybody and everybody under the sun that would vouch for me. Because part of their interview process is right before you get an offer, you have to have your references actually vouch for your quality of a character, your work ethic, and how you can actually use those skills to benefit the company. So I made sure I had everybody on board for that. Next thing I know, again, walking out the door to go skiing, my girlfriend picks up my phone and she goes, "Hey, you're getting a call." And I thought it was a call from the Hershey Cubs. And I'm like, really? Can they not like post a social media post while I'm away? I told them I was away. Let them play their hockey. let's get over with it. Come on now, I'm skiing. Pick it up, and it's the company. And they go, "Hey, your references are in." I'm like, "I submitted them yesterday. They're already in." They go, "Yep, we read them, and we'd like to move forward with a formal offer for the position." I dropped my phone right there in that moment. And yeah, in that moment, I was just awestruck. There's no greater feeling in that moment because you realize that everything you hoped for and worked for, you just accomplished. Like you did it. Nobody else did it for you. You did it. You went out there and you took it. Like that is an opportunity that came off your your hard work, your sweat, the hours that you put into this. And I owe a lot of credit to PRSA for this. A lot of credit because you know everybody's going to say that cliche thing, right? Where PRSA changed my life. As cliche as it sounds, it's true. Like PRSA gave me connections, and I would say over half of those connections were my references to this job. So
that itself is, I mean, it's just so amazing that, I mean, that one, that you were able to be interviewed,
yeah,
interviewed
so quick.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a quick process. So like the lesson I took from that is be ready for anything. Like you don't know what they're going to come back and say. Like they could say on the spot, "Hey, let's keep this going," or they could be like, "All right, we'll get back to you like in the 2 weeks time," like the typical response. So anytime you go into an interview, expect the unexpected, right? Because that's pretty much what it's like after you graduate. It's unexpected. You don't know what opportunities are going to come your way, but especially in interviews, like if you sit down there and someone says, "Hey, are you available tomorrow?" You better know right then in that moment if you're available tomorrow because they're not going to want to wait around. If they like you and if they want you, they're going to pursue you. So you got to prepare for stuff like that because you got to be ready then to kind of negotiate if that time comes then if you need to.
Oh, absolutely. And I have a great personal example as a segue to head back into what you're just saying about PRSA. But for me, when I graduated with my master's degree in May 2024, I was also teaching a online class at the time as well. So I graduated May 3rd. I finished the class and everything on May 7th. And I know that they had previously had spoken to me, the university had spoken to me about, sticking around. I was like, yeah, I'd love to, but before I do anything, sign anything, I don't know the process. Yeah, I at least want some more information. I want to just
Right.
inquire a little bit. I don't want to put myself to like a 5-year commitment to something. Like, I'll do it. I just at least want to know what I'm signing up for.
Of course.
And so yeah, but I knew, having done this podcast, that everyone has always said, this job search thing is strenuous. And so I've always been a person where, like, as soon as I get something in my mind, I would dedicate my life to it. And so I was like, you know what? It's like, well, my birthday's August 5th. I was like, I want to give myself until my birthday sort of to figure out my life, and for once actually have sort of off time, because I've been in school since the age of 2. I want to, at the very least, know what my life is about. But again, I still also want to, like, I want to continue in teaching. And so, that was my childhood dream. And so I sent out some emails. I was like, hey, I know you'd asked for me to potentially stick around, and I'd love to get more details. And most of these things get no response. And so, I keep going through. And so, yeah. And so my summer was pretty busy, so I didn't have as much time as I thought to dedicate to, figuring out what's next. I still had a whole bunch of part-time jobs. I still do. And sure enough, I am working for one of my jobs the day after my birthday. And I remember, like, my phone vibrating, but I'm in the middle of a production recording a summer graduation. I can't really look at my phone. I just know that,
Yeah.
you know,
It's ringing. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, I have a Gmail notification. Didn't think anything of it. Kept on going. I made it home, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw this notification. Didn't read it. I just, because it's like, well, I'm not really involved in anything, so I don't know why I'd be getting an email. Well, all that to say, that was right before I went to sleep. I opened up my phone, and it's just like, here's your teaching contract. And I'm like, what? It's like, when did I apply? But sure enough, it's like, huh, it worked. It all worked out. And so even though this was the day afterwards, the official signatures from everyone was on my birthday. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is like meant to be. I said I wanted until my birthday, to relax, and the day after my birthday, get a contract that was signed the day beforehand. I'm like, what's the odds of that? But it's like, okay, no guarantee of classes. So I'm like, okay, so I'm an instructor with no classes now. I guess that's a step up, I suppose. My contract begins August 26th. So it's like, okay, well, I guess, I have that to look forward to. And so I dropped my brother off at, college at the end of August, and I volunteered for an event at the university, that had a little bit of teaching because I was an online instructor. I wanted at least some sort of experience to teach in person. And so, sure enough, when I went to the volunteer event, I ran to one of my old professors, and they said, hey, Brandon, we were expecting, to run into you. It's like, okay. And they're just like, hey, we have a class that begins in about 3 days with no professor.
There
And
you
then
go.
it was funny because I don't know if it was really a question or if it was just like a statement. And so it's like, okay. It's just like, yeah, so you want to teach it? It's like, oh, it's like, yeah, but like you're saying, I mean, knowing your schedule, they're like, can we speak about it tomorrow? And it's like, oh, I know I have a podcast in the morning, but I can do the afternoon. No, like, okay, got it. Give me your decision before the end of the day. So I made a
Yeah.
phone call. I was like, I can do it. And like, it went to voicemail, ironically. But then I got the text back saying, oh my gosh, awesome. We're going to set everything up. And so I had 2 days to go from alumni to instructor. But I mean, you never know what will trigger that. And so, I think that was just such a perfect example to sort of exemplify what you were just saying.
Let me just put it this way. I quickly grew up and learned the importance of picking up those phone calls and answering those emails really quickly, because when I got my first internship, it was like a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of summer, right? So I was hanging out with my buddies. We were playing Xbox, of all things. my phone was in like on the side of the couch, and I look at it, and by the time I look at it, it's going straight to voicemail. And I let it go to voicemail, and next thing I know, I read the voicemail, and I'm like, "Hey, fellas, I should probably pick this up. I think I just got offered an internship." They're like, "Dude, we'll pause the game. Go answer that call right now." So don't always pause your game. don't don't do that. Like that. That was a long time ago. That was a different me.
Well, I mean, I hope it was a good game though.
It was great. It was a great game. It was a great game, but definitely not worth, missing an internship call for. Nothing is worth missing that call.
I was gonna say, it's like, does it compare to internship level, experience? Well,
No.
glad to know that you figured out your priorities there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm so glad though that, I mean, things have been able to work out for you and that you're able to be in a dream job. And before I ask about some of like your PRSA experiences that you said helped guide you the way there before we ultimately, bring the conversation full circle, I did want to ask, how was your first, I believe, month or two within your job thus far?
I love it. I mean, every day is more incredible than the next, if that's believable or not. Um, but you really work with a great team, and I think that's something that's important to realize too. Your dream job coming out of college might not have all the bells and whistles you want, right? But it's important to understand that if you put yourself in a position or a role in which you can grow, you can jump, you can advance and get promoted, there you go. That's your fast track to career growth right there. But for me, like, I enjoy doing what I do because like we build a lot of these campaigns on a daily basis. It's a lot of campaigns. So that's paid media, right? So and growing up in college and high school, you don't really have the luxury of playing around with paid media because it's expensive. I mean, paid media placement is not cheap. I mean, like we're talking thousands of dollars. Just I mean, that's like on the lower side for most companies, not just anybody. But paid media is really really pricey. So getting to learn that element of the peso model here has been really amazing. I get to do videos, kind of highlight things from an internal and external perspective. So that's been a lot of fun as well. But the projects are just so rewarding, so fulfilling. And like, I think the true marquee of, like it's a good role for you is when your 60-day review comes along and you're like, whoa, it's been 60 days already. Like you lose track of time because you're just so invested in it. And that's what matters. And I think, that kind of, sums it all up there.
Well, I'm so glad, I mean, that it all is working out for you. And of course, I wish you the absolute best. But of course, our conversations, not over. Yeah, but I did want to ask, since you mentioned so much about how PRSA has helped, guide you. And I know that you had won that lovely award not that long ago. Apparently from my
Yeah,
PRSA
yeah.
chapter, of all things, very small world. So I did want to ask. So, what does your membership in PRSA mean to you? And I know you said you went to an icon. So I did want to ask, how was that? And if you went to any other conferences, I definitely want to know, the full detail and the limited time we have left.
It was incredible. I mean, PRSA to me means it means everything. And that's a truly understatement right there. Um, Millersville's PRSA chapter was very small when I joined originally, and it was a very tight knit group. They tried to do a couple campaigns for like the National Donate Life organization, a lot of which just unfortunately didn't materialize the way we wanted to, just because of time, budget constraints, and just lack of resources. Honestly, none of which ended up being really our fault. It just was a unfortunate circumstance. Um, so when the time rolled around for me senior year, because everybody else who was currently in the chapter was graduating, I was the only one left. It was time for me to take over after like 2 years of being a chapter member. Um, and at that point in time, I'm not kidding when I tell you that our chapter had two members, one of which including myself. So if you don't include me, we had one active member in our chapter. And that's what I inherited. I inherited a chapter that was struggling to not only gain members, but retain members, right? And I think people have to understand the importance of that when we're talking about a PRSA chapter here. gaining members is vitally crucial to the chapter's success, but retaining those members is also huge. Like if you gain, let's say 20 people a semester, that's awesome. Then if you lose those 20 people the next semester, all your work is for naught. So I knew I had my work cut out for me. I did. I'm not going to lie, because I basically had a couple months to create a strategy and implement tactics that would get people interested in a club that was pretty much dead to its rights, which to me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. The kind of person I am, I was like, let's take this on and let's crush it. So Millersville, every year at the beginning of the semester, it's like that first week of classes, it's called an involvement fair. And that was like my one shot that entire semester to recruit. So I had one opportunity to really basically get people interested in PRSA. So it was going to be a tough task. I knew that. So no joke, this comes from one of my connections through PRSA, the local Central PA chapter. His agency had kind of flyers out that were public relations on target, and it was like a target board. And I just actually came back because when we met the governor through my internship, they had us actually at his like governor's estate where we all were able to connect with other interns from the Commonwealth, and they had a like axe throwing game out there for us on his backyard. So when I saw this and I thought about the involvement fair, I'm like, I might be onto something here. What do we got here, kind of thing. So I started playing around and tinkering with the idea, and I looked it up. I just looked up axe boards near me, axe throwing boards near me. And lo and behold, believe it or not, Walmart does indeed have everything. When in doubt, Walmart has got it all. Just when you think Walmart doesn't, I prove you wrong. Walmart has a axe throwing board and a dart throwing board that is not real axes. Let's get that clarified here. I'm not chucking real axes at people. They are like foam axes that go into like a kind of like a bristle board, and they'll stick in the board. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what? I think I've got my strategy. So made the flyers, made the pamphlets, made the materials, the videos, anything, you name it. It was there to promote this. It was targeting career advancement with Public Relations Society of America at Millersville. And no joke, to get this axe board, I drove about an hour out of my way in the middle of, backwoods here in PA. And if you know anything about PA, we got a lot of just random towns in the middle of nowhere that just pop up on you. This was one of those towns. Pretty much just the Walmart and a field of cows next to it. That's where I was at. Did not know, probably not even a map town. So I'm driving back and you get everything ready to go. And when I got to the involvement fair, I got there early because you can't reserve a table until you get there. And keep in mind, there's tables at the very front when people walk in, and there's tables at the very back that some people might not get to. So I knew that I had a great game that if people saw it, they didn't even have to know what the club was. Think about it this way. If you saw it, let me ask you, if you saw an axe throwing board, would you walk up?
No, I may observe from a distance, but up close, not up close.
All right. Well, people definitely flocked around it. So the minutes those gates opened, people saw it, got interested, and we actually had a line at our table. So, and it was crazy because I was the only one manning the table. And so I had to make sure somebody wasn't throwing an axe at their best friend's head, and then also marketing the club. So in the span of one day, we filled up 3 like college rolled notebook sheets of paper of people interested in signing up. Now, granted, a lot of those people might not stick, right? They saw the axe throwing, they saw the free prizes, the t-shirts, the pens, right? We had it going on at that table, right? So they probably signed up so they could get some swag. I get it. I probably would have done the same thing too. But I had to reach out to all those people afterwards, and I'll never forget the feeling I felt. We had our first meeting coming up. It was scheduled in our, library meeting room. And I'm getting ready, and I sat down on my bed in my room, in my dorm, and I'm like, oh my God, what if I did all this work and no one shows up tonight? So I like started psyching myself out. I started psyching myself out because I'm like, I did all this work. I went to all this effort, and I'm like, I'm going to walk into a room and I'm going to be looking at myself, my reflection in the mirror. Like, that's what's going to happen. It was not what happened at all. I walked in, and that room was full of people. We had to pull in some more chairs from last year to the first night of our, semester. Our chapter went from 2 active members, including myself, to a room full of 15 new kids interested and willing to buy into this culture that I was trying to create. And I looked at all of them and I'm like, look, this first meeting is going to be me getting the rust off, just because I'll be honest, I was worried that no one's going to show up tonight. But you all are here. So obviously there's something here that is drawing you in. And I looked at all of them and I'm like, let's buy in together. Let's buy into this together. And I promise you, it's going to be worth your time. I promise you, if you give me a chance and I'll give you a chance, it's going to be worth your time. And it was, with a lot of help from a lot of great chapter members. I mean, the amount of people I had to thank here would be never ending. But I established goals. I established short-term and long-term goals from a relatively early point. And my first short-term goal was to go to Icon, which was actually out in Anaheim, California last year. And Millersville at that point in time hadn't been out to an Icon in over 6 years. In fact, I was the first person from Millersville University to attend a national conference when I went to leadership in Seattle back in 2023. I believe it was 2023. No, it would have been the spring of 24. Spring of 24. I was the first person from Millersville to go and represent our chapter since like 7 years. So it was a long time coming for our group. But we were able to get enough people interested, raise enough funds, and next thing you know, we had like 3 chapter members going out to Icon. And 2 of those chapter members like saw like drastic change in their career. They both got offered internships while at Icon. One currently has an internship now, and one was offered to go be like a communications and social media intern up at New York City Fashion Week. So these are not just run of the mill internships. They earned them. They really did earn them. But I think for me, that Icon was a lot different than leadership. Leadership was about meeting people who I'm still in touch with to this day. The PRSA community is a fantastic community. It's basically like one big family at the end of the day. So I was kind of like putting my name out there and getting to know people. But when Icon rolled around in Anaheim, I saw it from the perspective of a leader, and it like melted my heart. It melted my heart because I saw my chapter members grow. And at the end of the day, for me as a leader perspective, that meant so much more. But for those trying to figure out whether they should join PRSA or not, stop thinking about it. Do it, because it's life changing. And like I said, I know that's cliche, but it's truly what you put out, what you put into it, you'll get out of it. Like it's an incredible community, and I have to join the professional one now, so I have to put that on my to-do list. But keep it going. Always pay it forward. That's the motto at the end of the day of PRSA.
I absolutely love everything that you've, been saying throughout this episode, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, getting to know you, and this truly has been, such an enjoyable experience. I definitely hope those tuning in have gained a lot from hearing from you, and so I overall did want to ask, so what does it mean for you being able to share your experiences here on the show, and as an add-on to that. So if anyone wants to continue hearing your story, where are the best places for them to find you online?
Well, first of all, it's a huge honor. Anytime I can share my story and help somebody else, that's what it's all about for me. I'm excited and honored to be in the position I am in. But if I can see somebody else get to achieve their dreams or their goals, that to me is far much more valuable. But if they want to connect with me, please reach out. I'm available on LinkedIn. Hit me up on Instagram. But LinkedIn is probably best if we're talking professional standpoint. So just look up my name, Joshua Gearhart. You'll find me. It's not too many like me. Just look for the guy who's got the big flow on the back of his hair. You'll find me. But yeah, I think just being able to share my story, because I haven't actually had a time really to actually sit down and kind of recap my journey ever since December, because my life's been a whirlwind, but the best kind of whirlwind. Like, you got so many big life moments that happen in such a short amount of time. You graduate, you start your first job, right? You're saving up money to get your new place. You're saving up for those big life's moments, and now you're like, everything that you worked for has arrived. Like, keep working for it, keep pushing, and like, here's the message that I want to share at the end of the day, right? Be forged through fire. And what I mean by that is, adversity is a gift. Adversity is a gift in life, and if you don't face any adversity in this world, you're doing something wrong. Be thankful for the broken road. Take the path less traveled. Be set apart, right? We're called to stand out, not fit in, right? Do what makes you you, and forge through those tough moments, right? In those moments, we find out what our true character truly is. Dig deep. And when you dig deep like that in those moments, employers realize it, it shines through, and it becomes part of who you are. Your struggles are woven into your overall tapestry for success.
I love that. And I think that's just such a great, closing statement for this episode. Thank you so much, like I said, for coming on, for being here. And please definitely keep in touch. And I hope that, let's say, you'll be attending Icon 2025.
I'm thinking about it. It's in DC. So it's finally closed for the first time in like years. So trust me, I'm thinking about it. It's like right in your backyard. So
yeah. Yeah, I've been thinking about it hard myself, and so only time will tell. But for those tuning in, thank you so much, as always, for tuning into the Tansson Talks show. I always appreciate your support, and continue tuning in every week as we continue on our mission to bring people together. I'll see you next time, friends. Take care.